Hello everyone, welcome back to GMAT statistics. We recently talked about average, the importance of average to the data, and how to think about average, especially when you are dealing with a standardized test as GMAT, which is based on reasoning more than calculation. However, you cannot always avoid calculation. It is necessary part of GMAT itself. And where there is calculation, there is the tediousness and also the time consumption. So today I'm going to give you 5 different shortcuts to calculate mean, especially when the sum in front of you looks especially daunting. Before I move any further, these shortcuts are important to understand, but also extremely important to practice. If you just understand the shortcuts and not practice them before your exam, then they may not yield the same result as you would expect in the exam, because in the end you cannot get away from the calculation. You can only minimize the complexity of it. All right, so let's get started. I have taken a series here as an example that I am going to use for all the shortcut methods, and I want to emphasize the practicing part of it because not all of these shortcuts are applicable to all kinds of series you will see in GMAT. So as you practice, you would start realizing which shortcuts are applicable where. All right, so the first shortcut is when I'm given a series like this. Sometimes it is important for me to observe how many elements are there. So here we have 6 elements, and the first thing I always think about is there a relationship in the number of elements and each of the element in the group? What I quickly look at is each of these numbers is actually divisible by 6. If you recall, the formula for average is sum of the numbers divided by 6. For calculating sum of the numbers divided by 6, you'll have to first calculate the sum, and as you can see, calculating the sum for these numbers does not look easy. However, what if I first divided each of the numbers individually by 6 and then added them up? I will get the same result, but probably the sum would be simpler. So first I checked, is each number divisible by n, which is my number of elements, and I say yes. Then let's just divide them. So 6, 12, 36. 6 divided by 6 becomes 1. 12 divided by 6 becomes 2, 6, 8, 9, and 11. The complexity of my calculation all of a sudden became very, very simple, and my answer to the question becomes 37. I hope you followed so far. If not, take a moment to kind of quickly review this before we move on to the next shortcut. And in this shortcut, we are going to make an educated guess without actually calculating anything. So we know that the average is the sum of the numbers divided by 6. So my sum is nothing but average multiplied by 6. So the units digit of the sum would have to be same as the units digit of average multiplied by 6. So as you can see, there are several different units digits. So there is a possibility that if we can figure out the units digit of the sum, I can easily figure out what the average is going to be. So let's take the units digit only, 6, 2, 6, 8, 4, 6, and let's add them up. So 6 plus 2 is 8, 8 plus 6 is 14, where the units digit is 4. So I'm going to just write them down. 8 plus 6 is 14, so units digit is 4. 4 plus 8 is 12, right? So the units digit is 2. 2 plus 4 is 6. Units digit is 6. 6 plus 6 is 12. So units digit is 2 again. So my sum would have a final units digit as 2. So when I look at my final units digit, it is 2. So if my sum has a units digit of 2, what can be the units digit of the average? So 6 multiplied by anything with a units digit of 2 gives me a units digit of 2, right? 6 2s are 12 and so on. However, as you can see, the sum has the units digit of 2, but none of the answer choices have units digit of 2. So this is completely out. Right? The other possibility is 6 multiplied by any number which has 7 in the units digit gives you a number with 2 as a units digit of the sum. So 6 7s are 42. So my average could have a units digit of 7, and I see 2 different units digit here. This is where we have to make an educated guess. As you can see, 17 is very close to these numbers. However, 36, 48, 54, 66 are all very big numbers. So the average has to be somewhere kind of in the middle of these numbers rather than right next to 612. This comes with a little bit of practice, but also realizing that the average gets pulled by the larger numbers and always tends to be nearer the larger numbers, right? So I would go with D 37. This is not a accurate method of solving. This is a guess-based method of solving. However, if you are short of time, this is a great method to think about and try to solve the question. But this is not all. We have 3 more methods to go. If you have shortcuts to find the sum of the numbers, then you can easily calculate the average of the numbers as well. So here what I'm going to do is find the numbers that when I add will give me 0 as the units digit, because it's easier to add the numbers when they have 0 in the units digit, like 20 and 30 and 40, right? So let me start looking. I could choose this 12 and 48, right? Because this pair, when I add 8 and 2, I will get a 0 in the units digit, and this will give me 60. I can choose 54 and 66, or I can choose 36 and 54, or I can pick 6 and 54. That is up to me. However, let me just choose this number because this seems to me big enough and easy enough to calculate. So 6 plus 4 is 10, which gives me 1 carry. 5 plus 3 is 8. So this will be 90. So I have already reduced 4 numbers into a quick sum of 150. Now the remaining numbers are 66 and 6, right? So I have 150 plus 66 plus 6. Now this 0 is not going to contribute anything to the units digit. So now I have 2 choices. I can actually calculate the sum because it will not be that difficult to calculate the sum, or I could just look at the units digit of the remaining sum and follow the same method as shortcut 2 and guess an answer. So I can easily see that 6 and 6 will give me a final units digit of 2, right? And as I said, sum is equal to average multiplied by the number of elements 6. So if my sum has a units digit of 2, we don't know what the first 2 digits are, then the average has to be either have a units digit of 2 or a units digit of 7. 2 is definitely not present in the choices, so this is not possible. We have 2 quantities here, 17 and 37, both of which have units digit of 7. And now I can make an educated guess, or I can just multiply 17 times 6 to know that it is just 102. I already know that the sum is somewhere more than 150 because 4 of these numbers gave me 150. There is no way that my average is 17 because 17 multiplied by 6 is only 102. So this goes away and I can make a very good educated guess that my average is going to be 37, not 17. So again, a very quick shortcut method, but this is not all. We have 2 more methods to go. However, you might want to pause, go back in time a little bit and look at this method to get more out of it. The 4th shortcut is one of my favorite shortcuts. This is about how to find a sum very, very quickly. So practicing this particular method is extremely important for any standardized test. And let me explain how. Right? The first thing is to remove the tens digit from the units digits. So I'm going to just do it over here. So 6 can be written as 0 and 6 because it doesn't really have a tens digit. 12 can be written as 10 and 2. 36 can be written as 30 and 6. 48 can be written as 40 and 8. 54 can be written as 50 and 4. And 66 could be written as 60 and 6. Right? Now the next thing you do is find the sum of the units digit, and it is not that difficult to find if you keep in mind how we used to pair them. So 8 and 2 I can pair together to find 10. 6 and 4 I can pair to find another 10. So that is 20 plus 6 plus 6 is 12. That is 20 plus 12, which is 32. Very simple so far, right? So units digit is 32. Sum of tens digit is 10 plus 30 is 40. 40 plus 40 is 80. 130 and 60, so 190. And when you add 190 and 32, you get 222. You can divide it by 6, and while dividing it by 6, you can either divide it by 6 directly or divide it by 2 first. So that will be 111 by 3, and that will give you 37 also, and very quick method to actually find the sum and the average. I hope you like this method. Please do practice this method because it doesn't apply only to averages but also to the sum of two different numbers. And finally, shortcut number 5. This is my least preferred method. However, it can be very powerful in the right circumstances. And this is to start with the answer choices and using very important property of the average, that the sum of the distances of the numbers from the average is 0. Let me write that down quickly. Okay, and as I have written it down, let me repeat it. The sum of distances of the numbers from the average is 0. Even though this is my least favorite method of solving the average problems, the property itself is very important because it can be used for reasoning. And what that essentially means is, if each of these numbers represents the average, and if I find the differences of the numbers from any of this number, then and I sum them up, for the right average, the sum has to be 0. Now, it is always important to realize that average is somewhere in the middle, right? So I will always start with the answer choice, which are kind of in the middle. So since we have 36 and 48 here, I would start with answer choices that lie somewhere here. 37 is one of them. 40 is another one of them. So let's start with 37, right? So my starting answer choice is 37. But I will also do this question for 40 so that you get a better understanding of what we are doing here. And for each of the numbers on the series, I need to find the difference between the number and 37. So I have 6 minus 37, which is minus 31, plus 12 minus 37, which is minus 25, plus 36 minus 37, which is minus 1. And now on the other side of it, 48 minus 37, which is 11, plus 54 minus 37, which is 17, plus 66 minus 37, which is 29, right? When you sum the differences, what you will get here is 0. So this means 37 is my right mean. I advise you to practice what you learned in shortcut number 4 here, and that would make your life so much more easy. And I'm going to do the same. So here I'm going to say, for first I'm going to add the negative numbers up because they seem like very easy thing to do. 25 plus 1 would be 26, and when I add 26 to 31, it would be 57. So this will be minus 57, plus here I'm going to combine 11 and 29 first because 1 plus 9 gives you a 0 in the units digit, which is 40, and plus 17 would be 57. I get 0. So if I get 0 as the answer, then mean is that number. So 37 is the right mean. However, let's see what would have happened if I had chosen 40 instead of 37 and moved on, because that was a fair choice and I could have gone that way as well. So let's do the same thing with each number in the series. Let's find the difference between them. So 6 minus 40 would be minus 34. 12 minus 40 would be minus 28. 36 minus 40 would be minus 4. On the other side, 48 minus 40 would be 8, plus 54 minus 40 would be 14, and 66 minus 40 would be 26. Quickly calculating, 28 plus 4 would be 32. 32 and 34 would give me minus 66, plus here I'm going to combine these two because these two will give me 10 in the units digit. So 26 plus 14 is 48. So as you can see, I get a non-zero number here, and I don't even need to calculate anymore. I know these will not cancel off. So it cannot be 0. Since it cannot be 0, 40 is not the right answer. This approach can get a little bit tedious, and that is why it is approach number 5. However, it can be very handy. Even if you don't apply this approach, remember this property, because this property can be very helpful in reasoning out a lot of GMAT questions. I hope you found these shortcuts helpful. There is a lot more to learn in the statistics, so let's continue on.